This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, we've packed a number of shows together to give you some highlights. I know you're going to enjoy the show. Thank you for being with us today. Grant, welcome to the show. Honored to have you on.
Yay, Whitney. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I was looking forward to doing this all day. So excited to be here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here. I know you have remind me. You and I met at an event or at a conference a few years ago, and I'm surprised it's taken this long for us to connect again. But I'm grateful to have you on. You definitely have some skill sets that I alluded to in the intro that we want to bring out right to the guests in a number of different ways. Even from the folks who are raising money to the guys who are in the trenches, working on these apartments. You have some expertise that we want to get to.
For sure, man. Looking forward.
Well, Grant, you have I want us to actually I want the listener to know hey, you're going to be here for a couple segments here. So stick around for a couple days. We're going to dive into a number of topics with Grant. But Grant, you have had a lot of success on social media, I think recently, and you've been doing a ton of networking. And I kind of want to bring that together in this segment so you can elaborate on how you've done that, maybe some tips and whatnot that we'll get into. But even why? Why is that
Yeah.
important? I've received pushback from people when I've said, "Hey, you got to be putting yourself out there." You get people have to
Yeah.
know who you are to build trust and all these things. But would love to hear your take on that, even why you started that, and we'll dive into some technicalities of it as well.
Yeah. It always reminds me. I had a friend ask me like 4 years ago or something. He's like, "Hey, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you putting your stuff out on social media?" And I told him, you know what? I don't have an answer for that. But I do know one thing. In 5 years from now, I'm going to be happy that I did it as opposed to upset that I did it. Right. So I did know that, but I didn't know, I still don't know really what the future is going to be of it. But I do know one thing, that it builds social capital. So on Instagram, I have 35,000 followers right now. I make $0 off that, but it's social capital. What that means is, to me, like Ryan Pineda is, I'm friends with Ryan Pineda now. Now I paid to be in his program around him, and have some questions for him. But now him and I know each other, right? So that counts for something, right? And through my social media growth, Bigger Pockets reached out to me, asked me to be a contributor. Um, and they post some of my stuff on their site. So which was huge for me because that's how I started listening to Bigger Pockets, like a lot of us. Um, so it's just people noticing what I'm doing. And again, and on New Year's Eve, a couple months ago, Grant Cardone sent me a message on Instagram and my DMs, and I'm like, "Is this really him?" Right? And I looked, yeah, it's his account, and he said, "Hey, I am looking in 2024. I'm setting up all my podcasts, and I want to be on your podcast." And he said, "I love what you're doing." And I was like, "Wow, all right, cool." So I said, "Great." I was all in. I was excited about it, but I didn't tell him at the time, but I didn't have a podcast, so like I was telling you earlier, I
That's
reached
a
out to
great
Jamie
entrepreneurial
Gruber.
move right there, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to tell Grant Cardone no, but I reached out to Jamie Gruber, with the Tribe of Millionaires podcast, and him and I went and met Grant in person in Miami at his studio and recorded with him. So for the people that say, "Well, why are you doing it? Why get out there?" It's just overwhelmingly now I'm starting to see, like, well, this is why I'm doing it. It's for that social capital. And someone asked me the other day on a podcast, "What are you going to get now from Grant Cardone knowing who you are? What's your benefit now going to be with Grant Cardone?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." But I'm not looking, let me clarify. I'm not looking to get anything from Grant Cardone or anything like that. But he knows who I am. What's that worth? I think it's worth something. You know what I mean? And again, I can't put my finger on it, but I know at some point in my life I will meet him again. And just these people knowing who you are is a huge step, no matter what you're going to do in life. So that social capital to me is just so valuable. So now I can start to see it, from everything I've been doing over the years, and it's just consistency, man.
Yeah.
People ask that too, right? Like, well, what changed or what do you do? I just decided 2 years ago, I'm going to post every single day. And I never got off that. And I started posting 3 times a day and then 2 times a day, but you just got to start once a day and just be consistent. And that's how things start to change and people start to notice.
Love that. And no doubt, I've also benefited from just major consistency, right? Every
Yeah.
day for like 5 years, we've produced a podcast. So
Yeah.
it's very similar story as far as that that goes. And just the what you call it, just the value, right? The social
Yeah.
capital,
Social
right?
capital. Yeah.
I love the building social capital
Yeah.
comment. One question, why haven't you monetized, the followers, say, of Instagram or something like that?
It's really difficult to monetize. You could do it with a brand could, sponsor you or do things like that, but uh, it's really difficult. I don't know. I don't know how I would do it actually, to tell you the truth. But yeah, for me, I'm really happy where I'm at. I'm not looking to make money off it. I'm just looking to help people out, put some videos out there. I just put stuff out there that here's the stuff we went through. Here's how much it cost me. Here's what I learned. Here's how you can not make this mistake. And I try to just do it in kind of an entertaining way. But yeah, the monetizing, I don't know. I guess it just the opportunity hasn't presented itself yet.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I knew I was going to get that question.
Yeah,
Why haven't you? But no, that's great. And no doubt you're going to have more opportunities, even because more people are going to know you, right? Even just like Grant
yeah,
Cardone or other people like him, right? That are going to want to be in your network because of your reach, right? Or your influence initially, but then they're going to get to know you and hopefully, right? You never know what kind of partnerships or things can
sure.
happen, after that. But one thing's for sure, if they don't know you, it's not going to happen.
For sure. And I mean, look at Brandon Turner, for example, right? He's raised how many millions of dollars through his network on social media. And for you too, I've known you and your podcast for years, since before I even knew who you were, or before I met you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because I just knew your podcast has been great. And I've known that for years. So even when I met you, I'm like, oh wow, I'm getting to meet Whitney. You know what I mean? So it's again that social capital. I was like, wow, this guy does big things. He's got this amazing podcast. So it's just tremendous. And to be here, that's why I'm excited to be here with you
No,
too today.
awesome. I think the same thing about you, Grant. So I'm grateful to have you on the show. But I want to dive into. I know I'm going to get questions about this, or I get questions about this all the time. I'd love to hear more from you
Sure.
on some of the technicalities behind building the platform. And I get questions like, what platform should I be focused on? Obviously, you have a big focus on Instagram, but
Mhm.
maybe why Instagram, or are you focused on others as well?
Well, I'm focused on Instagram now. The direct messages are great there. It's easy to communicate with people. I can set up automatic DMs. So for anybody out there, you want to grow your email list, right? That should be everyone's goal. So I created a lead magnet, and what that is that's something I give away for free to people. I shoot a video and I say, direct message me or DM me the word best, BEST. And when they do that, that signals through ManyChat. That's an app. They'll DM me that word, and ManyChat will send them the link to my lead magnet, and then they'd have to put their email in. And they get a free, one of my free tools, and I get their email and they're in my system. So that's a great thing with Instagram. But what I do and how I started is I just started with my phone. So I have a nice camera, I have lights, I have all kinds of different things now, but I just started with my phone, and that's what people should do. I suggest Instagram, and you just shoot a video, but then put it on all the other platforms. Put the same video on all the other platforms, and that's how I started out. I'll put it on Instagram, I put it on Facebook, I put it on TikTok. And then I would share it as long as I wasn't plugging anything. I'd share it in the Bigger Pockets group. I'd share it in other groups that I thought that it might be helpful. And and that's what I suggest. So, you shoot one video and you just share it to every platform. And Instagram's where it's really taken off the most. And that's probably why I focus on it there the most too.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful, and I love the strategy behind the app and the mini chat, and and it following up
Yeah.
on its own and automating those things. Speak to the content creation piece. A lot of people get
Mhm.
held up on, well, I don't want to be in front of a camera, or hey, what do I
Yeah.
have to say? You even mentioned, 2 to 3 pieces a day.
Yeah.
Speak to just the mental process, or even physical process of how you create that much content.
So I'll give you really behind the scenes stuff. So I was at a restaurant the other night and they have a floating toilet in the bathroom, right? And I noticed the caulk was cracked away and it was leaning off the wall. And I'm like, oh man, that would suck. Somebody's gonna have to fix that, whatever. So I took a video of it. I didn't say anything. I just took a video of it. And then I come home, right? And I'm going to put my voice over it. And I'm going to say, this is why you don't put a toilet like this in one of your rental properties, blah, 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 right? Because it leans away from the wall, blah, blah, blah. So it's just something like that. My brain, when I see something like that, I just suggest to people to shoot a video about it. And then you can put your voice over it. Even in your apartments or anything else, if you're doing a rehab, you're doing any kind of work, shoot videos and take pictures of everything. You can always talk over it in the future and you just never know when you're going to use that stuff. It could be 2 years from now. I have videos from 3 years ago I still haven't used yet. So always record your stuff. The other thing you can do is I use Trello, and what I do on there is I kind of script my videos. I write down my what I'm looking to say, and excuse me. I'll look at Trello. It'll be on my screen here. So I'll look down at it. I'll get my line, right? And I look up at the camera and I will say, you know, I'm going to tell you the top 5 reasons why you should not use a floating toilet in your rental property. And then I'll look back down and I'll grab my next line. You can cut all that out of your video. People make things, they make it too difficult where they think they have to be perfect on camera. You don't. You need to just say what you need to say into the camera. You can pause, think about the next thing you're going to say, and you can cut out all that dead space for a reel. And it makes it look so much better, but you don't have to be perfect. That's what editing's for. You know what I mean? So that's a trick I use.
Speak to the team required to produce that much content.
So I have two virtual assistants. And again, when I talk to the camera, I talk to the virtual assistant and I tell them, hey, in this one, this is going to be I talk to my video editor. This is what the title is going to be. This is, blah, blah, blah. Here's my first hook. I'll do 3 hooks and then the body of it, usually. And I talk right to him. And then when I'm done with the video, it goes into my Dropbox folder and my video editor's in there. He pulls it, he edits it, and the social media manager oversees it. And she's the one that approves everything. She has to watch it. They watch for mistakes, misspelled words, things like that. And when she is okay with that, she okays it and she puts the video up on my page. She writes copy to it. So she just listens to what I say in the video. Might use AI a little bit and just write some copy, the words in the description. That's what copy is, for if people don't know. And she posts it. So when I shoot the video, that's the last time I see it. So the video might come out 2 weeks. It just depends how much content I have in there. It could come out a month later. So I've had people say like, hey, I love that video that came out today. And I'm like, which one was it? I don't know which one it was.
Yeah.
Right. Because the last time I saw it, I'm like, tell me about the video. Cause I remember shooting them. I haven't seen a lot of them. Right. And that's the beautiful thing about it is once you're doing enough content, I don't have to touch it anymore. So I've taken myself out of that equation. I used to say, well, I need to approve everything. And now I'm like, just run with it. You guys are good. And if I see something that comes out, then I'll say, okay, guys, we did something this way. Let's not do it that way anymore. But I really give them free reign because they're good at what they do. And that's the best part about it is I'm more hands off on it now.
Yeah, no, that's the best way to do it, right? People are usually astonished when I say I've never edited the first piece of audio or video, and I don't know how to do it, and I don't want to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even after this mini, but no, that's awesome, right? Just to be more hands off, and that allows you to, I think, be creative more often, right? Be able to produce more of the raw content and let them run with it in a big way. Speak to the time spent. How much time
Mhm.
is focused on that kind of content?
Well, one thing I do is I have a notes app and or in Trello, I'll pull that up. Anytime I have an idea like that or I shoot a video, I'll just put it in my note. If I see molding or I see something that catches my eye and I'm like, oh, I could do a video on that. I'll put it in my notes and it just sits there. And then beginning of the week or whatever, I'll try to edit like 5 videos, usually 15 a week. I try to do like 5 on Monday, 5 on Wednesday, and maybe 5 on Thursday. Um, and then I will shoot 15 videos on Friday. Um, so really editing them and thinking, I'm always thinking of the videos, but kind of putting my mind to it and just putting some words to paper. That takes a little bit longer. But shooting the videos, it takes about an hour to shoot 15, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. So it doesn't take long. I just do them right one after the other.
The hard work's been
Um,
done at that point.
yeah. And, like here's another the background here. You can see I can change my colors, right? So it just looks a little different. Maybe change my shirt if you're shooting all those videos in one day. Just so it doesn't look repetitive when they all hit your feed, right? So you just kind of change it up a little bit. But yeah, the hard work's done. Shooting them, you just shoot them right in a row. So and this is my full-time job, right? I mean, it's this content creation. And then, I have a course that in coaching, that's my full-time job. So, that's the beautiful thing about it, but you can make time you can make time for anything that's important. We always do.
That's right. Speak to, self-managing and managing, even remotely.
Yeah. So it's something we did in the beginning to save money. And looking back now, I'm like, well, if we'd have got used to giving that income away, maybe we'd been better off. But it's something we're really good at. And the beautiful thing is my wife now manages all of our properties. We're a team, and that gives me time to work on the social media and my course, the Apartment Buying Blueprint. So luckily we have that. And my wife hired a boots on the ground person, went on Indeed and put a application out, hired somebody locally to us in Michigan where our properties are. And that's worked fantastic. And I always tell people, invest where you know. So if invest where you live or invest where your parents live, invest where you went to college, invest where your friends live, you vacation a lot, just invest where you have people. Because if you're going to invest out of state, like I can call my dad and be like, hey man, run over there and check this out. We had a pipe burst and my dad was there in a minute. As the plumber was still getting, on his way there. So invest where you have people is always the best advice that I give people.
Do you plan to continue, buying more local to where you live now or still up there? What's your plan kind of going forward as far as acquisitions?
So I guess we're trying to get away from Michigan because we don't live there anymore. And we want to get into a warmer climate. The other thing is when you start off, I'm sure you know this, you start with lower class buildings, older buildings, right? It's just what you can get in. Not awesome neighborhoods maybe, and you just kind of level yourself up. So we're looking to level up into B plus properties. We probably have B minus properties in B plus neighborhoods. But they were C's when we bought them, but they're 1960s. So they're older buildings and we kind of want to get out of that. We kind of want to get out of the snow, and get in better areas. Now, again, we're in Florida now. So now that comes with, hurricanes and all kinds of other different things. So we're not positive yet it's Florida, but we know it's going to be in a southern area that's, very landlord friendly.
Okay, so you've found the building, you've located it. I love all your tactics around calling
Mm,
the owner as well. Even
yeah.
even hey, just walk down the street and maybe you see a tenant and ask them, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's it could be so simple, but man, something that you don't think of or just go do, right?
Yeah.
Call the, you know, call them, get them on the phone, right? Make an appointment and potentially, you know, see if they want to sell, right? Okay,
Yep.
but you know, now you've actually, I want to back up even a little bit more. You mentioned you seller financed one of them. You know, talk about approaching that conversation a little bit. Obviously, that's a great, you know, it could be a great avenue for the seller and for buyer potentially. Right? How did you know
Yeah.
that was a good avenue for you? And if you, you know, can elaborate on any of the terms or some things that made it work for
Sure.
you, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll tell you how we found it. We owned a single family rental. I was with the inspector in the basement. He was doing the rental inspection to get our certificate of occupancy. And I mentioned to him, hey, because I started telling everybody we're looking to buy apartments, everybody I met. So I'm like, well, I got to tell him. And I was embarrassed because we only owned a few rentals. And I'm going to tell this inspector who to me was like God back then, right? I was like, oh my gosh, this guy can ruin my life. It doesn't have to be that way. But I said, hey, we're looking to buy rentals, you know, my voice cracking and everything because I was so nervous. We're looking to buy apartment buildings. You know anybody that owns one? And he said, yeah, I do. There's this woman named Blanche. She owns like 60 some rentals in the town I lived in. And he's like, you should give her a call. And I'm like, all right. So I Googled her number and found her. And I called her and she's like, who is this again? And I'm, you know, told her looking to buy apartment buildings. She sat there for a minute and didn't say anything. And then she goes, she's like 80. And she said, I'm not looking to sell anything, but here's 4 properties that they do a very bad job running. You should reach out to all 4 of those. The 4th property was that 20 unit building. And we ended up buying it. So if I hadn't told that inspector, we never would have got that building. So, I mean, just the power of telling everyone is huge. So, and that guy owned a liquor store right next to the 20 unit building. So I went into the liquor store and I said, hey, I hear you own the building next door. Are you looking to sell? And he goes, yeah, I'd be interested in selling. And I was like, oh, now what? You know, I'm like, okay. Um, how much? You know, and then we just negotiated right there in the liquor store. Not, you know, I'm not a shrewd negotiator. He's just like, well, I'd have to get I think we decided on 625,000 for the 20 unit. And I said, great, we'd like to give you like 5% down or something. He's like, absolutely not. I need 20%. I have to pay off. He had to pay off the water bill. He was way behind on taxes, all these things. He's like, I cannot. I need 120,000. And I said, well, would you be willing to do seller financing? And he's like, yeah, yeah, we'd be willing to do that. And again, I was like, oh, wow, now what? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, let me go home, let me run some numbers and let me get back with you. And then the beautiful thing a lot of people don't realize is it's just you and the seller coming up with these terms. There's no seller financing God that decides you can't do this and you can't do that. It's just you two agreeing to it and putting it in writing. And that's what we did. And I said, how about, I need a 30-year amortization because I need to keep the payment low. And he said, yeah, I don't care. I said, I need a 5-year balloon payment. And he said, no, my dad's older. We don't want to wait that long. So I said, well, give me 28 months. I'll refinance in 2 years, but give me a few extra months just in case. He said, that's fine. And I asked for a 5% interest rate, which was higher than normal back then. Now it looks great, but he said, yeah. So that's what we did. We put 20% down, and 16 months later, we refinanced that property. We bought it for 625. It appraised for 1,030,000, and we got a check back for 300,000 tax free. And that was amazing. All our money was out of the deal, and we were able to go buy our next 11 unit property that we found that one off market too.
Congratulations. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks.
just the simplicity, right? Of hey, just going in and talking to the guy and figuring you ultimately figured out what he needed, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and made that happen, made it work for him.
100%. And I tell people like, man, if I can do this stuff, you know, You guys can too. It's just, I'm just open and honest. Like, yeah, what do you need? And if I can make it work, I'll do it. I'm not, I'm not a master negotiator. I'm not all these things, man. I'm just a guy that's like, hey, man, I just got a dream. I didn't want to work for anybody else. And that dream burned hard enough that I'll figure this out, dude.
Love that. Okay, so now you own the building. What's some big surprises or things that come up that you wish you'd known then that you know now?
People aren't easy to deal with. That was the big surprise. When you buy a building, the average rents were 480. Now I think they're 900. But when you buy a building and the average rents are 480, we were thinking they should have been like 650 or 700. Um, the people that are paying 480 shouldn't be living there, right? Because the rent should be higher. They shouldn't be living in that city more than likely, right? Because they probably can't, they can only afford to live there because it's 480. Let's put it that way. They can't afford to live there when it's 700. So the problem is, when everyone looks at a property, they always say, I'm going to increase rents. And they never take into account, how are you going to do that? And it's going to take you time to do it, right? These people need to be on 30-day, I'm sorry, month-to-month leases. You can't just go in and increase people's rent when they're on a year lease. So you have to take that into account. And the people are going to be unhappy about it. So we couldn't afford everyone to move out. And so what we did was we just bumped people gradually over time, because we did not want them to move out. We had 5 vacancies. He told us there was 3, I believe, and it ended up being 5. So we rehabbed those, we bumped those up to market. And now here's the problem. Excuse me. We're bringing in a better tenant base, right? They're qualified. We're screening them. They're nurses. There's these people that go to work. The other people in the building didn't do that as much. And so now you have your good tenant base with your other tenant base, and we made the building no smoking. So we have 5 people now in there that aren't allowed to smoke. And the 15 others are smoking weed, smoking cigarettes. And it's hard to turn a building like that. It takes time. But, that's the one thing that I wish we really would have known. We had to have some real tough conversations with some tenants. You know what I mean? Giving pushback, because here we're just trying to, make this building better. But in turn, all they see is my rent's going up. So that can
Right.
be a problem.
No doubt, people can be quite difficult to deal with at times, especially in this
Yeah.
business. But oftentimes, I mean, that's why you found so much value in that building too, right? Because people
Yeah.
weren't willing, somebody else was not willing to have those hard conversations, right? And to do the hard things, right, to improve that building and that property, which that's like I said, that's how you found the value. What about and oftentimes, so you're going into this property, you already know there's going to be a lot of repairs to be had there, right? You're going to improve this property in a big way. Speak to how you found the team or the contractors to be able to make that happen as well.
Yeah. So finding contractors, that's been something I've been really good at, just because of necessity. So what I do is, one thing is I create an album in my phone, right? And I'll name it Contractors. And anytime I'm driving, I'll take a picture of a truck, like a painting truck or a roofing company, and I'll just take a picture of it and I'll throw those people in that album. Most of the time I don't need them, but anytime you're driving around, you'll see a plumber's truck, you'll see all these different things. They all go in that album. One day I might need those contractors, and I might have to go through there and start calling. The other thing I do is I go to the Lowe's Pro Desk and I ask them, "Hey, do you know an electrician? Do you know a plumber?" Um, it like that, right? And that's how I found one of my electricians. Is I asked the person at the Pro Desk, "Excuse me, do you know an electrician?" And she said, "No, I don't." I said, "Okay." I walked outside, and a guy came running out after me, and he goes, "Hey, man, I heard you asking in there. I'm an electrician. I'm a licensed electrician." I go, "Great. You do work on the side?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." I said, "Fantastic." And that's how we found our first electrician. Another great thing is you go to Sherwin-Williams, and I asked the manager there, "Hey, who do you know that's doing rehabs on properties or apartments or works for property management companies?" And they'll tell you because they see them in there all the time. And that's where we've gotten a lot of referrals. I've gotten a lot of rehab crews that way, and painters as well. Obviously, painters is the easy one, but that's something I'll do. They're a great resource. And driving around the neighborhood, if you see somebody working on your neighbors' houses, stop and talk to that person. And I ask them, hey, do you work with property management companies? Because if they don't, I'm not looking for somebody that's going to rehab a kitchen for $50,000, right? That's just not going to work in my price point. So I will, I'll do that. Stop and talk to those people. And also if you're driving through an apartment complex or driving and you see, a painting company in there or something like that, those are apartment painters. And, apartment painters are much different than residential home painters because we can get a unit painted for, don't quote me on it, but for, let's say, $400 and, for a like 600 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. And, a residential painter is going to want to paint, going to want to charge 1,500. So you just have to get those prices. Those apartment painters are just huge. They're invaluable. And you have to find them and ask at Sherwin-Williams, do you know any apartment painters? And that's another great way. Another great way is nextdoor.com. It's an app. And the cool thing with Nextdoor, it's only the people in your local area. So you can ask your neighbors, hey, who do you guys use for plumbing? Does anybody have a painting recommendation? And that's how we found a ton of our contractors. And, you got to put them to work and you got to watch them. And we don't pay people for labor in advance. Especially if somebody wants to show up on day one and wants some money, that's fine. When you show up, we'll give you some money, but we don't extend money out to people. We buy our own materials from Lowe's. We have those delivered in the unit, in the apartment unit. So the guys can just show up and go to work. And usually we'll pay them in draws. That way, you're going to give somebody, if somebody says, I need $5,000 before I go to work, right? Like for my labor, it's like, no way, I'm not paying you that. You'll never show up. So you just got to learn to protect yourself too.
Ask me how I know, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Grant, I'm grateful to have connected with you again, had you on the show. So grateful for your time and how you've given back to us over 2 segments here. And even just diving into this deal that you did and the seller financing, or ultimately how you found it as well, all the details there to how you found it, to finance it, to even some things around finding contractors that's so important in building that team. And so thank you so much. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. That's the best way, at Grant Warrington. I'm all over social media, YouTube, everywhere, but at Instagram, at Grant Warrington. You can send me a DM there. And the Apartment Buying Blueprint, that's my course. You can click the link in my bio on Instagram and you can find it there, or apartmentbuyingblueprint.com.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.